You ever get immersed into a film to be utterly crushed by the final act? A story built up so eerie and tense, leaving you at the edge of your seat, only for the final showdown to be anticlimactic. Oftentimes, this can be attributed to a rush production or the writers writing themselves into a corner. But sometimes the idea and concept is better than the execution. Before we begin, please give this video a like, share, and subscribe to our channel. With that being said, spoiler warning in effect, here's our list for 10 horror films ruined by bad endings. Number 1. Smile, 2022. This film did a pretty good job throughout as a mediation on grief and mental illness. It had an eerie atmosphere, compelling characters, and even a spooky enough entity that really played into the paranoia of its audience. But then the ending came along and it just ruined everything it set up. First of all, the CGI monstrosity they came up with was basically the same as every other lanky shadow monster since Mama in 2013. A horror trope I think is a little too goofy looking. And then the twist of her trying to kill herself without anyone seeing her, only for her former ex-lover to come in and get cursed, was a bit too predictable. It would have been way better had we not seen him chasing after her, or maybe he died earlier. So she goes to this place to enact her plan. For all of a sudden, maybe a random innocent child or something to accidentally stumble upon the scene. Supposedly, there's a sequel in the works, so we'll see what they do with it. But ultimately, it's what made the movie a one-time watch for me. Number 2. Army of the Dead, 2021. Not only did this film have one of the worst final girls in Scream Queen history, it also had one of the dumbest and rushed endings of recent zombie horror flicks. It was incredibly predictable, with obvious sequel bait, and the most unlikable character survives because reasons. The film as a whole wasn't so great as it stands. That typical Netflix washed out color format and pacing issues kind of bogged down the rest of the film. But it was at least an entertaining heist film set in a zombie apocalypse, up until those final moments. The prequel, Army of Thieves, was much better, even though it only featured a news exposition story about zombies. Number 3. Devil, 2010. The entire film is spent in a tense mystery as a group of strangers are trapped inside an elevator, and suddenly, while the lights were out, one of the people was murdered. However, then there's the reveal of the killer, and while it was a surprise, it was a bit of a letdown. But the true agonizing moment that ruined this film is the climactic battle between the lone survivor and the devil itself, which basically boils down to the protagonists forgiving themselves for their sins and asking for absolution. I get it, the concept, it's very Dante's Inferno kind of religious horror conclusion. But this film is no The Exorcist, and just doesn't carry that kind of weight, especially since it doesn't really come up as a discussion between the characters who are stuck on the elevator. Instead, it's floated by a security guard who saw Jesus' face on a piece of toast once. Number 4. Secret Window, 2004. Based on a short story written by Stephen King, I bet all the people behind the production of this film were banking on the big twist they thought would blow audiences away. Instead, it was groan-inducing, mostly because of how they revealed it, but also due to Johnny Depp's incredibly unconvincing acting. In concept, it's a great idea, playing on the very Norman Bates style of split-personality murderers. But man, they should have found someone a little more up to the challenge of portraying a sympathetic character who can also come off as menacing and evil, like Jack Nicholson. Number 5. The Village, 2004. Written and directed by M. Night, this film builds up one of the most intriguing lores and settings since the original Wicker Man. But just like all the other films on this list, that ending kills any kind of goodwill this film ever could have had. He was desperately trying to recapture the magic of that twist at the end of The Sixth Sense. that pretty much every film he has put out there subsequently has either felt completely left field or overly telegraphed and stupid. The Village falls into both categories, as the reveal that they are all living in some giant national forest park is both out of nowhere and incredibly moronic. Like the old quote says, it ends not with a bang, but a whimper. Number 6, Don't Breathe, 2016. So the big twist in this film isn't that the helpless blind old man is actually an almost superhuman ninja, but rather that he's a disgusting rapist bent on revenge against the woman who killed his child. So not only are the kids who break in villains, but so is he. So who do you root for? And that's where this film unfortunately screws the pooch. It chooses to make one of the thieves into a heroic final girl instead of punishing them both and letting it all go out in a blaze of chaos. And it's not even done so that she can be in the sequel, because the film follows him on his next adventure, completely forgetting about her. Such a disappointment to such an otherwise gritty and moody tense horror thriller. Number 7, Signs, 2002. Aliens with a weakness to water invade a planet which is 70% covered in it, as well as having it in the air and whatnot. You could have chosen anything else to be their weakness. Hell, even War of the Worlds tried with making the aliens get sick and die from Earth's bacteria. But no, M. Night took the dumbest thing he could think of and banked on the audiences to never figure it out, so it would be a surprise twist. And we all hated it. I don't even want to talk about anything else about this film because that ending is just absolutely infuriatingly stupid. Number 8, I Am Legend, 2007. The original planned ending would have been amazing. It would have seen Will Smith's character realizing that he is the true monster by kidnapping the vampire people and experimenting on them. That they had real emotions, even if the virus they were infected with had turned them into bloodthirsty creatures. But then stepped in big Hollywood and refilmed the ending into some cliche heroic sacrifice moment that just made the film fall completely flat. It even ended on a cliffhanger of sorts, the two survivors reaching a camp with the cure in hand. Both hopeful, but also as generic as every other apocalypse film that ends on a happy note. An I Am Legend sequel was announced, saying they were going to build off the original ending. So I'm curious if that will ever materialize, and if audiences who have only seen the theatrical cut will even understand what's going on. But I guess we will find out in the future. Number 9, High Tension, 2003. Another one of those films with a whodunit twist. However, this film really shit the bed by revealing the main protagonist as the antagonist, making the entire film kind of feel like one of those "it was all a dream" scenarios. Now, in films like Sleepaway Camp, it works because the way the kills happened and such all made sense by the end. The pieces fit together, so to speak. But here, there are so many scenes where it would have been impossible for Marie to be the killer. So does that make her an unreliable narrator, and the way we saw things were just figments of her imagination? Or are we just supposed to insert her into the killer slot and pretend? You know what? I don't care. It was a shitty reveal and ruined the whole film. Number 10, It, 1990. This film has a myriad of problems, mostly due to it being filmed for network television, which had a ton of restrictions. While Tim Curry gave an excellent performance as Pennywise the Clown, and even the child actors did an amicable job in their roles, the film was ultimately let down in its climax. Even if you haven't seen this film, you probably already know about the infamous giant spider finale, which I highly recommend you check out the documentary called Pennywise, the Story of It, if you want to see how that even came about. Suffice it to say, it looks so goofy and out of place, and just brought the film to a screeching halt. It will forever be a stain on this franchise, because in all honesty, even the remake didn't totally nail this part. They did, however, insert a cheeky little cameo from King himself in It Chapter 2, where he acknowledges not all of his endings are the greatest. Thanks for checking out the video. What movie let you down the most? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. I've been your host, Jamie. Here's hoping your spooky season doesn't get ruined by unseen forces.